Hey y'all, it's old Jesse. Um, this is Morals Part 5. I would like to talk about the environment. Adam was created to take care of the Garden of Eden. And Eve was created as Adam's helper and mate. And wife. You know. That means that humanity as a whole needs to be good for our surrounding environment. We need to work to keep the environment that we live in productive, clean, maintained, nice. We need for us to be good to the natural environment, to our human created environments, and we don't exist to junk things up, right? Humanity was not put on this earth to junk things up. So, how do we do that, you know? Does it mean you have to go out there with a lawnmower and mow the lawn? I mean, if you want to, you could just as easily put a fence in and have animals out there. Does it mean that you have to have a bunch of fruit trees in your yard and make your yard into a garden? I mean, you can if you want to. What it means is that wherever you live, whatever you're doing for a living, should not have a negative impact on the world that you live in. That's what that means. You know, humanity started as keepers of the Garden of Eden. Okay? We started as the folks that maintained a garden. Right? So, you know, I've spent a lot of time living outside. You know, I've lived in campers and vans, and I did the hobo thing. If you're doing that, don't leave trash behind. If you own a house, don't throw a bunch of garbage in the yard. And I've got to say, like, living a life that isn't stable and it kind of tends to be chaotic, it makes that harder. It does. It does. Being poor can make that harder because there's some things you can't dispose of easily, like glass and metal. You know, metal you can scrap, but nobody really wants to take the tin cans, you know? So, and, you know, pretty much all the plastics, anything else can get burned. But, you know, that might not be the way that environmentalists would like our environment taken care of. But it doesn't grow the landfill, and the landfill is like that's a blot on the land. That land has been defiled for only God knows how many generations. So be aware, be cognizant of what you do to your land. You know, like don't pour oil on the ground if you can help it. At least burn it. You know, don't pour gasoline or poisons on the ground if you can help it. You know, like realize that the world that we're placed in is for us to take care of. We're supposed to take care of what we need what of our environment while we're here, while we're alive. And it's not about super environmentalism or anything like that, because what the Bible teaches is that earth was given to mankind, to, and the whole earth is given to Jesus. Like, so as an inheritance for forever, So this is where we live. This is where we're going to live for forever. Don't junk it up, and so that's a thing that's like, all right, what can I do as a mode of living that benefits that? Well, one of the things that we can do is we can reduce our use of plastic. We can make our disposable items recyclable. We could, do simple things like manage our yards and our land in such a way that not only do we get food out of it, but the plants and animals have benefit. It has to do with a fundamental difference in agriculture and animal husbandry. Okay? So I would say, think about these things. Because, if you plant fruit trees in your yard, does that benefit the creatures around you? Yes, it does. A lot of raccoons and possums and deer and stuff like the same kind of plants that we eat. If you plant poisonous plants in your yard, even if they look nice, it doesn't benefit the creatures either. A landscape is not a garden. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, a landscape is for visual effect only, but does not benefit the creatures living in the garden. Does that make sense? So, one of the things you can do as a human being is to realize, okay, well, we are for taking care of the planet. We need to be productive. We need to guide and keep and grow things that are beneficial to us and to the wildlife, So if I plant fig trees or whatever, what kind of animals get those fruits before I do? And I can tell you the birds love them things. They love them a lot. If I plant, say, a loquat tree or, a cherry tree or, any other kind of fruit tree that's easy to take care of for me and produces fruit, I get benefit out of it, my family gets benefit out of it, and the wildlife gets benefit out of it. If all I am capable of doing is going outside and mowing the grass once a week, well, that's not really good for the deer. That's not good for me because it's just a waste of money. Makes it convenient to walk around, but it has a visual, a type of visual appeal. But it's not beneficial to the earthworms. It's not beneficial to grasshoppers. It's not good for the environment as a whole. And I'm not saying don't mow your lawn. What I'm saying is, keeping of the land, in your guardianship of what you own. Protect your environment. Protect your surroundings, and look at what you're doing, okay? Because you don't have to be a farmer to put a couple fruit trees in your yard. You don't have to be rich to, put some nice flowering flowers out there for the butterflies. You don't have to be a green thumb and grow plants that are hard to grow. Nobody has to do that. We just have to be conscious of our environment and how we do things, So my concern with this is that the vast majority of humanity does not think about that, I've lived with and among nature. I've tried to do the garden thing. And my current battle on my property is that somebody before me brought in invasive plants. And I've got to do something about the invasives, right? And I've tried to plant fruit trees and productive crops, and these plants keep overtaking the other plants, and that's one of the reasons why some of the things that I've done in the past haven't worked out, So I'm starting that again, and I'm trying to get my place taken care of so I can be an example. And I've given considerable thought now to what I'm doing. This is a thing that started at the Garden of Eden. And as you go through history, you can see how humanity's diverged from that. I'll give you an example. Noah and his sons went through the flood. Came out of the ark on the other side with some animals, and tried to restart humanity. Well, when you look at the Middle East and you read the Bible and compare that to what it used to be like, there are places in the Middle East that were said to have grass that don't have grass anymore. They don't have trees anymore. Okay? They are not green like they used to be. Now, you could say, well, the weather patterns caused this. I would say that humans caused that by agricultural management. And what I mean by that is sheep and goats eat everything all the way to the ground and then pull the roots up and chew on them. Okay? So the concept of the Middle Eastern shepherd, specifically the Middle Eastern shepherd done the Arab style, where they migrate but they don't migrate too far, and they pretty much strip all the vegetation off the land. Okay? That's very, very unwholesome way to do animal husbandry. You know? And And it's a very unwholesome way to do agriculture. Because it creates desertification, and that's very hard for adjacent countries to overcome. Now, you can see the difference between the Arab style and the Jewish style just by looking at the greenery in Israel. And you know, they are managing their land. They are managing their environment, and they're trying to make a good environment. And it's partly because the Jews are blessed by Yahweh He, and it's partly because of the belief that they should manage their land properly. Okay? So, and then we can move to other areas of the world and look at how they've done it. Europe is famous for monoculture. That was the big thing, the surf thing, and then like over here in the States became a big monoculture thing for a long time. And what we learned is that there are bad ways to manage land. You know, you have to have windbreaks. You have to make sure that the soil is covered during the wintertime, so it doesn't create a desertification effect. A lot of times now we've gone to planting cover crops, and we've gotten better at these things. We've gotten more able and capable of doing of keeping our environment and managing our environment. So just consider with me for a while of, you know, like, how about we look at our agriculture and try to find a way to do agriculture that is not toxic. How about we find a way to do our animal husbandry in a way that puts more carbon in the soil, in a way that is friendly to plant diversity in pasture. You know, how about we think about the way we landscape our cities? Because if our cities were landscaped with crop producing trees, with more flowering bushes, more crop producing bushes, with edible ground cover that the local creatures could eat, that would change our food resources. It would change how poor our poor get. You know, the human beings that survive it in the world would get great benefit off of it. And am I suggesting that we do this to the destruction of capitalism? No, I'm not. I'm not suggesting that at all. You know, business needs to be able to be done. What I am suggesting is that where possible, we plant local varieties of trees and bushes that don't have to have a lot of water and don't have to be maintained and are good for that environment and are if not native to that environment, very well adapted to that environment. So we don't have to have a lot of watering cost and all this and that. And we do these things smart because that's what we were created for. That's the reason why Adam that was created in the first place, is to take care of the earth, to take care of the garden. So as a moral standard, we need to know that we should be conscious and cognizant of our surroundings and capable of investigating our surroundings and trying to do these things in a wholesome way that is good for humans. And we should be asking Yahweh Ahich to help us so that we can protect the land that we've been given, that we can protect the plants and the animals and ourselves and our children and our spouses. So that's a thing that's like, all right, that seems like it's not a great moral, and it's not often repeated in the Bible. But under the law, under Torah law, they were supposed to keep in reserve their parts of their property that had been planted for the poor and for the animals. And so it's a true thing. It's been repeated before. And in Christianity teaches conscientiousness toward other human beings and toward your environment. And this is a thing that's like, we should be good for the environment. We need to think about how to design and to keep our environments in a wholesome way. And that in and of itself could be a whole study of life. So think about it. Give it some consideration. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on this subject. And if you like what I had to say, give it the old thumbs up and subscribe. All right, y'all. Yeah, have a good one.